Y'all, I did not sleep good last night. My apartment is freaking haunted. I'm gonna tell y'all a story time of what happened and what's going on in here. So basically, last year my grandmother, she was passing away or whatever. And when she was on her deathbed, my family members, they came down from New York to visit. Now they needed a place to crash, and I offered my apartment to them. I didn't stay at my apartment because at the time I was at a boyfriend house who's now my ex, but yeah, basically, I was at his house, so I gave them the keys to my apartment and told them go ahead, crash at my apartment or whatever. They ended up leaving. I noticed they left in a hurry, but I didn't pay too much attention to it or whatever because it was a lot going on. That happened in August. My grandmother ended up passing away in September. So fast forward to January now is when I'm finding out the details of what happened when they stayed at my apartment. So the two aunts that I let stay at my apartment, we gonna call them Auntie Lauren and Auntie Nina. All right. So one day I'm talking to another aunt, her name Auntie Sandra, and I'm like, hey, if you ever want to get away, you can come to my apartment or whatever. So she like, girl, I'm not coming to your apartment. We Jamaican, but I'm translating a lot of what was said. So she was like, girl, I'm not coming to your apartment when your two aunts told me that Duppy is at your apartment. So I'm like, what? So if you guys don't know, Duppy is the spirit of somebody that's passed on. In Jamaica, that's what we call it, or it's a ghost, basically. But it's their spirit. Some people see it as a shadow or whatever, but it can manifest itself to actually look like the real person. So, because it's them in their spirit or whatever. So my aunt tells me like, girl, I ain't coming to your house when your two aunts told me that they saw Duppy at your house and they had to run out of there. So I was like, what? Hold up. They didn't tell you that. Tell me that. I said, let me call them and I'm gonna call you right back. I need to find out what's going on. So the first aunt that I called, Auntie Nina, she didn't answer the phone at first. So I ended up calling Auntie Lauren. All right, y'all. So I ended up calling Auntie Lauren or whatever, and she picked up the phone. So good thing that she was the one that picked up the phone or whatever. So I'm like, hey Auntie. So Auntie Susie told me that she seen a ghost at that you guys seen a ghost in my apartment or whatever. So I asked her like, hey, can you tell me what happened? So she was like, yeah, I was at your apartment and I was talking. It was me and Auntie Nina. She said I was laying down on your couch and I was facing the door. Auntie Nina was in the dining room and she was sitting there eating. So she like, yeah, I'm laying in the couch talking to your aunt. And she said, all I see from my peripheral is a man enter the room. And she said, I turned and I looked at him and we locked eyes. And she said, he looked very frightened to see me. And I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah. I'm like, what do you mean he walked through the door? I'm like, he walked through the front door. She said, yeah. I'm like, was the door open? She like, no, it was closed. He walked through the door. I'm like, they could do that? She was like, yeah, it's a spirit. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, what did he say? She said he didn't say nothing, but he looked very frightened to see me. Like, it's almost like she said that he looked frightened because it's almost like you could see me. So he was freaked out that she could see him and he wasn't expecting for her to be there because I live there. So he's expecting me to be there. So she was like, he didn't say no words. So I'm like, what did he look like? She said that I don't know, it was a slim guy. So as soon as she said that, I'm like, I forgot to tell y'all this. I had an ex-husband who passed away in 2018. He got murdered. So that was my first thought when she said a slim guy because he was very slim. So I'm like, oh my God, a slim guy. All right, so I asked her, I'm like, yeah, do you think that it was my ex-husband? So she was like, I never seen him because, oh, I forgot to explain this. I married him while he was in prison or whatever. So my family, they had never seen him, never seen what he looked like. When he passed away, they didn't go to the funeral or anything like that. So I asked her, I'm like, you think it was my ex-husband? She was like, I don't know. She was like, all I know was that it was a slim guy and he had on a gold and white striped shirt. So when she said that, y'all, I swear to God, I said, oh my God, that's him. Because why? That's what we buried him in a casket, y'all. I really wish I could put a picture on here, but I don't want to do that. So I have a picture of him in a casket. So no, I said, if I show you a picture of him, would you be able to tell me if it's him or not? She said, okay. So I show her a picture of him like when he was alive and well. So she was like, yeah, it looks a lot like him, like the stature and stuff. But she's like, the face, I'm not really sure. You gotta let me see something else. So I'm like, okay. So I ended up show her a picture of him when he was in a casket. Because I was like, can I show you a picture of him in a casket? Because he looked a lot different when he passed because he got pum pum in the head. So his face was swollen. Like when he passed, he looked very different from how he looked alive. So I kind of figured since she saw him in the casket clothes, then he probably looked different than a little different than he did when he was alive. So I'm like, can I show you a picture of him in a casket? Like, would you be freaked out? So she was like, no, I'm not scared of stuff like that. So I ended up texting her the picture while we were on the phone. She was like, yes, that's him. That's him, same one. The same one. Remember, we Jamaican, so she talking Jamaican. She like, yeah, that's him, the same one. So I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. She was like, yeah, I don't think he was there to harm you though. I feel like it was like a protective spirit. Like the way he came in, he was real comfortable. You could tell that he comes there all the time. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? So she like, yeah. All right, y'all. So another thing was my aunt said that he came in through the front door, but he left through the window. I asked her, I'm like, how could he leave through the window? She was like, well, he's a spirit. So he came through the front door and he went out to the side, like out through the window. And I was like, oh my God, the whole thing has freaking freaked me out. So my other aunt who was there, Aunt Nina, I ended up calling her because I wanted to hear her side of the story. She told me that she couldn't see him, but she was sitting in a dining room, which is, it's an open floor plan. So she's sitting in a dining room, which is right next to the living room, and she can see the door. She can see my aunt from there. She says she sees my aunt talking to him and witnesses it, but she couldn't see him with her physical eyes. But she said she was able to tell me a little bit more because me and this aunt, we're a little bit, I was closer. So she was telling me, like, yeah, your aunt had rebuked him. Like, she told me, like, basically when he came in, your aunt was like, but Sia, I don't know where you come from, but you have to leave. You have to go. You're not welcome here. In other words, translation is like, she's like, how dare you? Like, I don't know where you came from, but you're not welcome here. You have to leave. And then my aunt said she started pleading the blood of Jesus against him. All right, y'all. So I asked my other aunt, I said, since my aunt pleaded the blood of Jesus against him, do you think that he'll be back? So she was like, girl, yes, he'll definitely be back because he knows that you live here and you were his wife. So he knows you live here and not us. So we told him to leave, but he won't come back because he know we don't live there. And the aunt that saw him with her physical eyes, I have left this out and forgot to tell y'all this. She said like the way he walked in like this was his shit. Like he lived here. Like he was real comfortable. She said he was probably expecting to see you and the baby. But she did say, I know that he knew we were your family members and he probably heard the Jamaican accent and everything. He knows my family's Jamaican, but she said she sensed that he knew that he was they was my family members because he just left without starting trouble. And if he was a malicious spirit, he would have started trouble. So she said she thinks that he comes by like to protect me and to like keep my company and stuff and watch over me. That's the sense she says she gets from it because she said, she had lots of encounters with spirits. She's been seeing them since she was a little kid and everything. And my aunt is completely sane. She's a prayer warrior. And yeah, so I don't know, y'all. I'm terrified. It's been the scariest stuff happening in the house. Not in a way of he's haunting me, but I just feel a presence in here. And I'm like scared of that stuff. And then on top of that, on top of feeling the presence, like it's other things happening, like lights flickering. And my aunt had told me, like, that's one way you'll know if he's around because they try to get your attention. They'll flicker lights. Like she told me different things that I would know to know if he's around. She said sometimes you can smell them. She said sometimes you put something in a place and they'll move it when you know you put it in that place and you know it was there, but they moved it because they're trying to get your attention. You know what it reminds me of? Like the movie Ghost. I'm gonna go back and watch that tonight. But yeah, as soon as that had happened, I'm gonna get more into the story. It's a long story. I'm gonna make it a part 2 of the things that he's been doing. All right, y'all. So it's a long story. I'm gonna have to make this into a part 2, or I might even make it into a series because it's been different scary stuff happening here. And I'm gonna break it down. I didn't even get to last night while I couldn't sleep, but I had to give y'all the backstory. So, have anything like this ever happened to any of y'all? And what do I do to get him to leave? Because Jesus Christ will protect me. At this point, I don't need that kind of protection because it's getting scary. I'm scared. Like, even grown men are scared. Okay?